When it comes to parties, everyone will raise their hands, but with this story in particular, no one will like to receive an invitation because it will turn into a bloodshed. So today we are so glad to speak about this movie called The Invitation with Fast and the Furious and Game of Thrones superstar, Nathalie Emmanuel. Hey, how's it going?
Great, thanks. I'm so happy to be here. How are you?
I'm great. I feel so happy to finally speak to you about this movie that it feels so fresh and so different from other horror movies. What can you tell us about that?
Well, it's very much female-centered horror thriller, female directed, female written story, female led, very centered around women, which is incredibly rare in this sort of genre. So it's a very modern spin on a story, traditional story we've heard many, many times. And from the perspective of the women in the story, which I think is just very cool and interesting and not been done before.
Yeah, that's great. That's super great to being focused on what women do. So what is the story about and who's the character you play in this film?
So the story is about a DNA test that goes incredibly wrong. A young woman, young artist discovers this sort of long lost family and is invited to a destination wedding that at first look seems very glamorous and exciting and turns into a literal nightmare. And I play said young woman and artist, Evie Jackson, who discovers that she is a direct descendant of this British aristocratic family called the Alexanders. I think just the inversion of like a story that we've heard so many times told from this point of view. And I was just really excited to play especially as a woman of color, like playing the lead and the hero of a horror film. Like
Yeah.
it's just something that we don't see, and I love that I got to do that. And yeah, and Evie's this smart, very passionate, very talented woman who is just in a slightly, when we meet her, she's grieving. She's just recently lost her mother. She lost her father at a young age. She's looking for connection, looking for family, and looking for support because she feels like she's struggling. She's getting eaten alive in New York City, and she's got her one friend. But I think what her amazing journey is as someone who starts out pretty uncertain of themselves, finding the strength and courage to survive and to fight. And we all have this untapped source of strength that we maybe don't even realize we have. And I just love that about the character, and I wanted to.
I always wonder what does it make all the vampires so terrifying, but at the same time fascinating. What can you tell us about that?
I don't know. I think like vampires have just always been so, they're like sexy, they're like dangerous, it's like violence, it's like everything I think as a human being that we're so fascinated by, like brutality and like power and immortality. It's always been something that's so
Attractive, right? Yeah, compelling.
appealing to human beings, like to varying degrees obviously. And it's like, I think it's just like an encapsulation of all of those kind of very human like kind of like fixations that we have as human beings, kind of rolled up into a mythical fantasy sort of landscape. And I think that's kind of why we love it so much. And but our film really tells it from the perspective of the women in this piece, rather than centering the vampire or male Dracula like figure. And I think that's just such a cool like inversion of that
Or
genre.
the beast of passionate side of ourselves, right?
Exactly.
So finally, I wanted to ask you, because you were in Game of Thrones and this last Sunday, House of the Dragon came out. Have you seen it yet? Or do you
Yes, I've
like to
seen
see
it. I watched it last night, the first episode. I thought it was great. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me
I really
too. Me
enjoyed
too.
it.
Look, I have right
And
here the Mother of Dragons. I'm so big.
yeah,
I'm a big fan of Game of Thrones.
yeah, I'm so happy it's like we get to enjoy the world of Game of Thrones again. I mean, I'm really pleased to be watching it as a fan, as opposed to, knowing what's going to happen. And you know, watching it with such a critical eye of like watching my performances and like not having to worry about any of that. I just get to enjoy the work of these actors and this crew, and just, you know, enjoy being a part of that world again. You know, it's great. I'm really excited for it.
Me too as well. Nathalie, thank you so much for having us. We wish you the best in the next projects to come, and we invite to all the people to see this movie when?
Friday. 26th of August.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having us. See you later.